Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live video from Boys Town Parenting. My name is Gabby. I am your host today. We are joined with Dr. Amanda Anderson from our Boys Town Central Florida Behavioral Health Clinic. And we're going to be discussing all about holiday stress today. So if you're feeling a little bit nervy, kind of as we're approaching Thanksgiving, or maybe your kids are starting to feel a little bit of anticipation or stress going into the holidays, we're here to help. Make sure you like this video and tag a parent or send it via DM if there's another parent that you're friends with in your network that you think would find this video helpful. Dr. Anderson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Happy to be back for another Facebook Live talk.
Yes, we love having you on. It's always great to have our experts here. So, as I said in the beginning, the holidays are really fun, but can be stressful. What do you see as the biggest source of stress for families?
Yeah, this time of year, there's quite a few pressures that are coming up. There's some financial pressures to make some really fun events happen. Some families plan some pretty elaborate community events or big trips to visit with extended family. There's also the pressure of extended family coming into town, and a lot of the families we work with, they got to get the house clean, they got to get the room ready for the guests, and we see a lot of changes in the normal routines of day-to-day disrupted. This is also a time of year where some loneliness and emotional stressors like grief, missing family members that are not able to be here or have passed on, stress from that as well. And being in the end of the year, a lot of our parents have some really big deadlines at work that they have to meet. But then with the added events of the holidays, it's like, how do we help them navigate and juggle it all? So that is what we see this time of year as the sources of stress during the holidays.
And when parents and families come into the clinics with some of those sources of stress, what advice do you give them?
Yeah, well, at first we want to validate the feeling of being overwhelmed and trying to juggle so many things. We help support them by helping them kind of remember it's okay to say no to some things. You don't have to do it all, and it doesn't have to always be as elaborate as your original ideas are. So, really sitting down and helping them set realistic expectations, plan a budget for trips or plan a budget for gifts that is reasonable and workable. We also kind of work with them on communicating with family members and setting appropriate boundaries, right? Because people that they don't tend to see all the time might be coming to visit, and we want them to be able to set clear boundaries on what they're going to tolerate and how that visit's going to go. Other things that help with the stress of this time of year is we remind kids and their parents, you got to make time to take care of yourself. It's very overstimulating this time of year with all the events and the lights and the hustle and the bustle. So helping them come up with a relaxation and like a calm down routine, reminding them that it really would be beneficial to plan time to wind down after these big events.
Yeah. I know we usually tend to think of the week after Christmas or first week of January. I'll relax then and it'll be fine. But definitely during the holiday season, designating, even if it's just short spurts on relaxing is helpful. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, Gabby, it's about really putting an intentional effort into pre-planning, And later some of what we'll talk about is like pre-teaching to the children of like what's coming up and how the schedule might change. And even though school is out, really we got to try to stick to the same bedtime because that's important. So lots of intentional effort behind planning ahead of time and kind of talking or role playing how things might go around those difficult family members who just say whatever comes to mind, preparing your kids for some of those emotions that may come up around the relative that just speaks too freely, if you will.
Yes, definitely. I think we all have one of those relatives.
So pre-teach, plan ahead for sure.
Yes, definitely. And what signs can parents look for that holiday stress might be affecting their kids?
Yeah, well, it's similar to any kind of stress detection, if you will. When your kids start acting different than the norm, and sometimes this might show up as they're a little moodier or grouchier than usual. So looking at some of that increased irritability as a sign. Um, for older kids, they might have difficulty focusing or concentrating. Some kids might withdraw more. They might have a harder time falling asleep during bedtime. So that's some of the signs of like, let's check in. How are you feeling? Looking for those key changes in their usual behaviors. Sometimes it gets as extreme as like acting out and temper tantrums, even.
And if we, as parents, notice some of those symptoms happening, what is the first step we should take?
Definitely getting on to the child's level and again, validating that feeling, letting them know what you've noticed, kind of talking about it in some behavioral terms first, and then saying, I wonder how you're feeling. Could you be? And then usually they're going to tell you how they're feeling. But, reminding parents that you want to talk about it. You don't want to avoid talking about it and approach them and let them know what you've noticed. And then really kind of working with them to give them a sense of control during this time. That is super helpful. Asking them, what holiday traditions are they looking forward to doing this year? And maybe it's baking cookies, maybe it's watching some holiday movies or going to a local holiday event around town. That way they have more control during this time of year. And we see that helps alleviate some stress.
Yeah. And do you think for both kids and parents, some of the reason where we might be feeling some of these, more upsetting emotions or frustration or stress around the holidays is because of comparison?
Yeah, good point, Gabby. A lot of times it's like, wow, what are the kids' friends' families doing? And, sometimes as parents, we want to go all out. But, you got to ask yourself, is it realistic? And we got to get back to the basics of, sometimes this is the spirit of giving. Not sometimes, this definitely is the spirit of giving. So it's like, how can the family give to each other and then maybe their local community as well? Getting back in line with just hanging out as a family, simple quality time together. Maybe, hey, we're going to get off screen times a little bit earlier than we usually do so we can engage in some baking or family board games together. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as we sometimes think it needs to be. And it's really important to not do that comparison game.
Yeah. And what about families watching who might be juggling shared households? So divorced parents and maybe their kids are bouncing back and forth this holiday season.
Yes. So for our families that are divorced or where parents are separated, that is also challenging this time of year because there's some extra coordination involved. And with those families, I try to tell parents, remember, the kids' well-being is the most important thing. And we got to kind of look at the holidays through their eyes. Some traditions they consider important, and we need to see co-parents work together to kind of keep some of those traditions alive in their separate households. And by that, I mean it involves pre-planning again and talking about it ahead of time and really sitting down with the co-parent and setting a schedule of when the children will be in which house, what traditions and activities will take place, so that open communication, probably some boundary setting too, and maybe making this rule of like, we're going to appear as a united front in our communication in front of the kids. We're going to really work to minimize conflict. And so, what I remind families that are divorced or separated is that, sometimes this looks like you're going to have to accommodate so as to reduce conflict, accommodate the needs and wishes of the other parent to an extent, so much as possible. Again, because relationships are a give and take. It's not going to look exactly like it was before the divorce or the separation. So there's going to be some accommodation needed. There's going to be some compromise. And really, it opens the door for new traditions as well. So, reminding kids, yes, it's hard. You might miss this. This is challenging. But what new traditions are you looking forward to doing with your step siblings? And speaking of step siblings, remembering that they don't always see each other all the time. So it's okay to schedule breaks. We can do stuff together as a big blended family. And then we can have them schedule time where smaller groups and, full siblings do events together, more one-on-one quality time. But again, it's about, accommodating, compromising, being openly communicative and flexible.
Yeah. And just like what you talked about earlier about, managing expectations, but also giving the child a clear picture of what's going to happen. Because, for example, if this is the first holiday that maybe families are split up, separated, divorced, blended, whatever it may be, they might be thinking, okay, well, I have done Thanksgiving at this house my whole life. And then this year it's going to be different. And I might be feeling a little bit anxious about what those changes are. So really, as co-parents, what you talked about of planning, okay, this day will be at this house, this day will be at this house. And then would you say sitting down with your child and explaining, here's kind of what the week is going to look like. What do you think about this?
Yeah. And giving them that visual and how the week is going to be planned out is helpful so that they know what to expect and to reduce anxiety. Yes.
Definitely. All right, we just have a couple more questions on our list here for Dr. Anderson. So if you are watching live and you have any questions on helping reduce stress around the holiday season, make sure you leave it in the comments. And of course, we will check this video. So if you're watching later tonight or maybe in a few days leading up to Thanksgiving, we'll keep our eye on it. And our awesome team member here is linking several resources in the comments to help build on everything that we're talking about today. Okay, what other advice do you have to help parents, caregivers, and children not feel so overwhelmed during the holiday season?
Something that I want to make sure to touch on is the disappointment that some kids might express when they unwrap or receive a gift that is not quite what they were expecting. As parents, I think sometimes we're so quick to jump to these extremes of, oh, my child is so ungrateful and spoiled. But remembering that disappointment is a normal emotion. We all are allowed to feel that feeling. So I would say in instances where disappointment is visibly expressed or verbally expressed by the child, validate that emotion, normalize it, but we also have to teach to it. We have to remind children probably before the gifts are unwrapped. So some pre-teaching again. Hey, it's the thought that counts sometimes behind gifts. And how do you think you might handle it this year if you get a gift from grandpa or Santa that's not what you're expecting, for those families that celebrate Christmas? And kind of like maybe doing some role plays, because it's like we want them to have a way to express, "Aw, bummer, this wasn't what I was hoping for, but you know what? this aspect of it's kind of cool, kind of giving them language around how to show that gratitude, but also reminding them it's okay to be bummed. It's okay to be disappointed. We just have to be respectful in how we express that. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure to talk a little bit about that as well.
Yes, that's great to
Uh-huh.
mention. Because yeah, I mean, opening a gift really at any age is an emotional. It's exciting, and then you can go up and down, and so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. But also just in general during this time, remember to prioritize self-care and balance. And what that's going to look like is you deserve a restful night of sleep. So remember to try to stick to usual bedtime routine. And for those that are traveling, try to bring a little piece of home with you, whether that be a pillow or a small throw blanket, for our kiddos, a familiar stuffed animal that smells like home, feels like home. That way these sleep cues and things that they're used to at night, like that's gonna aid in like better sleep when you're out of the house for the travel of the holidays. But also like exercise, practicing some meditation, and again, gratitude, what you were thankful for over the course of the year, some of the positive events that have happened. Like save time for reflection, meditation and reflection, I'd say. Those are some helpful stress relievers as well.
Yeah. We don't have to wait till New Year's to start our resolution. We can start doing these daily practices now and tee us up for a great next year.
Exactly.
Dr. Anderson, for those who are local to the Central Florida area, how can families get in touch with the Boys Town Behavioral Health Clinic if they're looking for more support?
Yeah, we welcome your phone call. Please call us to inquire about services. Our phone number is 407-853-7700. We accept Medicaid, we accept most commercial insurance plans, and we also have self-pay rates. We work with children, teens, and some young adults. So that's one way to get in touch with us. I also love to refer families to the yourlifeyourvoice.org website, so ylyv.org, and of course, parenting.org, for our wonderful parenting resources and common sense parenting tips. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. We will make sure to link all of those resources that Dr. Anderson talked about in the comments of this video so you can access them. And of course, visit parenting.org, boystown.org, and we can help get you the resources that your family might need this holiday season. And we're here for you. Dr. Anderson, thank you so much for sharing this expertise and setting us up to have a great holiday season.
Well, it was my pleasure, Gabby. Thank you for inviting me to this talk. And yeah, I wish everybody a safe and warm holiday season where you get to recharge and have some family time. And remember, it's okay to say no. You don't have to do it all this time of year.
Yes, definitely. If you enjoyed this live chat, make sure you give it a like and share it with another parent, and we'll see you guys next month. Thanks, everybody.